Aw, do I have to go to bed? But do I have to go now? Just 5 more minutes, maybe 10 more minutes. I'm not tired. I'll be good tomorrow, I promise. Do I have to get out of the pool? Do we have to go home? Just one more game? Just one more chapter? Just one more go on the slide? Just one more plate of the buffet? Just to the end of this show, because there's only one more set of adverts until it finishes.
As a child, when I was really enjoying something, I never wanted it to stop. I wanted to be able to carry on and on and on. I must have driven my parents mad as I came up with excuse after excuse to stay up longer, stay at my friends longer, stay at the park, on the computer, on the trampoline, in the random field, in the woods, at the laser quest, all for just a little bit longer. Probably not all that unusual for a child really, but it also has continued on into later life. I wonder if you might say the same. The object of our affections might have changed, but when something is good, we don't always want to leave. Now it may be a holiday, or an activity, or a comfy chair. Perhaps a book we don't want to end, or a Netflix series we want to be renewed for a new season. A piece of music, a quiet, crisp morning punctuated by birdsong. A comfortable silence in the company of friends. A chat that has you laughing so hard your sides hurt. Or even a time of worship, either personal or corporate. When something is good, we want more of it, and we don't want it to end. We just want to remain in the moment, enjoying it, and gaining all that we can from it, all that it's worth.
For when I stop and breathe in your presence, I find that you are the answer. You're all I need, and even when I don't understand, I know I am safe in your hands. Just breathe, just breathe.
Welcome back to our study of John's Gospel. I'm Ian, and this is the Selah Time to Pause podcast from Plexus Salvation Army, an online church in the UK.
John 1, 35-39. The following day, John was again standing with 2 of his disciples. As Jesus walked by, John looked at him and declared, "Look, there is the Lamb of God." When John's 2 disciples heard this, they followed Jesus. Jesus looked around and saw them following. "What do you want?" he asked them. They replied, "Rabbi," which means teacher, "where are you staying?" "Come and see," he said. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon when they went with him to the place where he was staying, and they remained with him the rest of the day.
Andrew and John, the 2 disciples of John the Baptist at the centre of that little story, were perhaps quite like us. When they found that something was good, they didn't want it to end. Twice in this single story we see them make a choice to extend their time in Jesus' presence. At the start of the story, they're with their rabbi, John. No surprise there. It's exactly where you would expect disciples to be, with their teacher, close by. In fact, it was not only an expectation, but remaining very close to their chosen rabbi was something of a goal for his followers, so much so that eventually gave rise to 2 Jewish blessings found in the Mishnah and the Talmud.
May you be covered in the dust of your rabbi.
And
Let the dust of the feet of the sages, as they walk, cover you.
the idea is that a rabbi's disciples were to follow so closely behind him that when they walked they would become caked in the dust he kicked up with his feet. So it's no surprise that they were with John. However, what is a surprise is that we see them leave John's side to follow Jesus. John hasn't sent them with a message or a question for Jesus, nor has he sent them to learn from Jesus' teaching and report back. John simply points out where and who Jesus is as Jesus walks by. And Andrew and John just up sticks, leave their rabbi and follow Jesus as he walks on. Something about the time they had spent with Jesus the previous day, the events of which the Bible tells us virtually nothing, had clearly had such an impact on these 2 men that they were willing and ready to leave their rabbi's side so that they could spend just 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe even an afternoon more with Jesus. That's the first time, But then a second time they choose to stay with Jesus. As Jesus turns to them and asks the question, "What do you want?" these two guys come up with what must be the lamest answer imaginable. "Where are you staying?" I can almost imagine one of them kicking the other or poking him in the ribs as if to say, "What sort of question is that?" While the other one tried to mouth, "When he says where he's going, we can just say, 'Oh, what a coincidence, so are we.' And then we can just tag along." Not exactly a cunning plan from these two guys. You sort of get the sense that they were put on the spot by Jesus' question, and perhaps they were even a little embarrassed to give the real answer of, "We just want to spend a little more time with you. We want to hear more of what you've got to say, see more of what you're going to do, and experience more of who you are." But no matter the unconvincing reason they gave to Jesus, the response was still gracious. He didn't tease them for the question's feebleness, but responded in kind. "Come and see." But behind those words, Jesus also saw through to the root of their desire and gave them what they truly wanted. That simple invitation to come and see where he was staying, rather than simply telling them the location or the name of the house owner, also included that Andrew and John necessarily spent the rest of the day with Jesus until they all arrived wherever Jesus was planning to stay the night. Allow me to turn this discussion around to you. When those times come that you feel you want to spend more time with Jesus, how often do you indulge them and find a way to do so? Now, I want to be clear, I'm not asking how frequently those times occur, but rather how you react when they do. It might be a time that's similar to that first instance for Andrew and John, where something happens that causes your attention to be drawn to Jesus, where in the middle of your day-to-day life, Jesus comes into view. Do you take the opportunity to follow as they did and see where that encounter might take you? Do you allow yourself to follow the train of thought that Jesus started, or to follow through on the action that it seemed the Lord was suggesting? Or perhaps it was like the second instance for Andrew and John, where you were already in God's presence, perhaps through worship or Bible study or listening to a podcast, and Jesus speaks to you. Do you take time to remain there in that moment and explore what it is that Jesus is saying? Do you give him the opportunity to say more? How quickly do you return to daily life or move on to the next thing? Before we finish today, I'd like you to engage your imagination briefly. Imagine how things might be different if we each took a leaf out of Andrew and John's book and took those opportunities. How might each of our lives be different now if we'd taken those opportunities a few more times in the past? How might our lives change if we started taking those chances more often from now on? If you allowed yourself to follow Jesus when you noticed him walk by, if you allowed yourself to see where he was going and discover what he was going to do, if you allowed yourself to enjoy for just a little bit longer those precious moments where you knew God to be close, how different would life be? As we listen to this song, I'm going to challenge you to take this moment, and however many may need to follow it, to simply enjoy being in the presence of Jesus. And as it ends, and as you then ready yourself to move into the rest of the day, I challenge you also to keep your eyes open to see where Jesus might walk by, and to then determine to follow him.